Hello and welcome
to the Heinun Couples Podcast,
where we empower blessed couples
to deepen the love, fostering mutual pleasure, connection, and joy.
So let's dive in.
Hi everyone. In today's episode, we are joined by Kyomi and Kenmai from Australia, who shared their honest story about preparing to become parents. They spent 6 years getting ready for kids, not just saving money and getting healthy, but doing the deep work on themselves and their relationship.
Listeners will hear about their life vision book, how they worked through their own childhood wounds, and why they believe becoming a parent is one of life's biggest growth opportunities. They talk openly about letting go of perfectionist parenting dreams and learning that being real with your kids matters more than having everything figured out.
Yeah, this conversation is perfect for couples thinking about starting a family or anyone curious about the inner work that comes with raising children. It's about finding the balance between preparing well and trusting that you don't need to be perfect to be a great parent. So enjoy. Thank you, Kyomi and Kenmei, for coming to our Heinun Couples podcast. Kyomi, we know each other. Basti and Kenmei know each other from like 15 years ago. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And, there was, I don't know how long it's ago, like maybe 3 years or something, that you gave a Sunday service about how you have prepared for parenthood. And we are also wanting to start with this journey of preparing for parenthood. And I believe also there's a lot of other couples out there that want to do that, but don't know really how to do it. So we would really love to hear your take on and your story on how was your journey of preparing for parenthood and what was for you important in that time.
Well, thank you guys for having us. And it's so nice to see you again after 15 years. And
yeah, definitely. 2010 is such a long time ago, but yeah, it's we're in such a different place now. So yeah, it's good to catch up as well.
Yeah. And as we were saying in a little chat before we started recording, it's always a bit like on podcasts, it's always a bit weird to kind of be interviewed because you feel like, oh, you also want to know what the other person thinks and what their journey is like and stuff like that. So I just mean we're definitely no experts in anything, but if our journey can help anyone else at all with helping their child have a better chance at a happy, healthy, neurology building, happy family, then of course we'd want our vulnerability to serve that. That's really the goal here is we're not opening ourselves up vulnerably for people's entertainment. It's really for the purpose of serving children and families. So I hope that people take everything we have to say as just take what serves you and leave what doesn't, because our journey is not going to resonate with everybody. But yeah, whatever part of it is helpful. Yeah, I hope that people can receive that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. So what is your story on, or how did you start on preparing for parenthood? What was your mindset for that?
I think, it was actually during COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, it got really serious during COVID is when it's sort of like, all right, let's ramp up the preparations.
Actually, we did have all these things, like it's not, clockwork or anything, but we did have a vision when we got together at first that, oh, you know what, I think like 5 years or 6 years from now is like approximately when we want to start trying. And it kind of happened that COVID landed exactly during that time. And COVID was a great time in that sense where, everything stopped and everybody sort of like reflected, went inwards and reflecting on their lives and their lifestyles and what was important and all these things. So I think that's when it happened, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah. Life got a bit quieter. The outside world became a bit quieter. So our hearts were like getting louder. I think my heart especially was getting really like baby, like I was just following that. I was honestly just following my body and my intuition, which was going, I want a baby right now. But honestly, this journey really did start 5 or 6 years earlier when we went, okay, there's all this stuff that we really would like to prepare before the baby comes. And so let's make a plan for 6 years from now, because we can always push the plan back, but our preparations are unlikely to take less time. They might take more time. Like our assessment was because we had certain financial goals, but also physical health goals and also our relationship goals. We wanted to get to we had problems, well, not problems, but like we had this in our relationship from day one, and we were hoping that it was going to get better over time. So we wanted to give ourselves that 6 years to work on our relationship, our finances, and our physical health, and also our own personal, psychological, emotional, spiritual health as an individual. So that 6 years for us was helpful. And not everybody has to think that way, but that's our style, is like to have quite a structured, like type A, what would you say, like approach?
Mm-hmm.
We had it written down and everything. We're both people who like write life visions and journal and reflect through, documentation. So we even created like a bit of a book that said what our vision was for our life in every category of life. And then it said, this is going a little bit into detail, but I don't know. This is the point, right? We created this book each with a category for everything, like, for example, physical health, career, finances, friendships, family, parenting. And in each chapter, each category, there'd be 4 sections. Your vision, what do you want to experience? What do you want to achieve? Your purpose, why you want that? Your premise, your underlying beliefs for it, and then your strategy. Okay, what does day by day look like, week by week, year by year to get to this goal? So those 4 sections for each category of life. And then that helped us, like writing that stuff down helped us realize where the gaps were. It's like, oh, our finances are not there. Oh, our physical health is not there. But we were building the awareness of it so we could make changes.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the Book of Life.
Yes, John and Missy Butcher from Mind Valley.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we did the book of like the life book from Mind Valley, we're sort of doing our own version of it already. Like 5 years earlier with the, like our vision 2020 was start the family. But
Right. So I think one of the things that we really prepared, like before, when we were thinking of having a baby, is definitely the physical sort of fitness side of things. So we actually, again, COVID was a time of reflection. And before that, it was kind of, we had a vision, like we want to have a baby by that time. But like everybody, I guess, or like maybe me personally, I didn't feel ready. And I felt like, oh my gosh, like the time is going to come and I don't think I'm going to be ready. And so I started to think about these things. And that's one of the things that we do was actually just like plan these things and the things that we wanted to get to. And so that's why during that time, like I had put on during those 6 years that we were together, I had put on so much weight, man. Like I completely changed from whatever I was, like 70 kilograms to 80 kilograms. Like it's just completely different. And I was looking at myself in the mirror. Is this really like who I want to be as a father and as a man? Like I'm not even there. Am I going to be able to take care of my family? So yeah, I did a tremendous amount of research and I got into this fitness goals and regime. And so we also wanted to, obviously, the health of the baby is related to the health of the parents, of course, the mother, but the father as well. So we both encourage each other in going into this, like, okay, you know what? We're going to start by food because health starts by food, right? And we went into this regime where we were really just bit by bit changing things. For a period of time, we also did a deep detox as well, where we were not eating any sugar. It was kind of a combination of like carbs and
PTSD from that period of time.
Well, yes, but I really enjoyed it personally.
Yeah.
It was a combination of keto and food. Yeah.
It's interesting for people that never tried detox or never tried to very consciously eat healthier. Can you put it into very simple terms? Like what is a very easy beginner way to do a detox or to eat healthier for a short period of time to have big benefits from it?
Thanks for the question. I can go on. It's basically the principle is very simple. So you go by stages, right? And the way we did it is that first of all, you increase the amount of food that you want to be eating. So you increase, for example, we had every morning we had this green smoothie, right? So first of all, you increase that, like a lot of that. So every morning you already get to the baseline of all the vegetables that you should be eating. And then you don't really care. Like, okay, if you want to eat like whatever, like all these ice creams and junk, I can do it, right? But then afterwards, you reduce things like bit by bit. So afterwards, okay, why don't you sort of get rid of all the like empty sugars, right? And I was like, okay, we can do that. And then afterwards, like, why don't you get rid of, all the different sort of processed foods? Okay. And by the end of it, we were just eating. So the end result was that we were just eating like whole foods, right? Whole foods.
It
Just
was
basic and simple, but that's very.
Yeah. We definitely don't want to make anybody feel like they need, like
Okay.
it shouldn't feel overwhelming. Okay. Just
Yeah.
like it's not good to feel like shame or guilt or stress around your physical health. So it sounds like a lot. You think about the end result of how we were living. And we never ate any packaged food. We couldn't eat out, no seed oils. It was kind of intense at the end, but actually it was like a staircase, and then every step had micro steps in between, which made it manageable. So every stage was cut into very bite-sized pieces, like one little change, like for example, just adding a bit of nutrients in the morning rather than like jumping straight to cutting things out, or increasing the amount of water and electrolytes for your hydration. Or I want to eat a donut, so I just eat it. Like sometimes we eat because we're thirsty. Sometimes we eat because of emotional reasons. Sometimes we eat because our body is craving nutrients, and we sort of feel that intuitively. If we first fill our body with extra things before depriving and taking away the addictions, then actually it's not so unpleasant. You're just filling your body with great things. So one of the stages of that process was like eating a bowl of fruit in the morning just to get that sugar from a natural way so that we didn't crave the sugar later in the day, stuff like that. So like there's so many different diets out there, and we're not saying that we know the one right way, but I think
Absolutely.
the most important thing is following your intuition and creating a home environment and a space where health is kind of celebrated, health is prioritized, and you're encouraging each other. When it comes to health, I think the most important thing is that you're giving yourself space to make improvements and you're not focusing on shame or guilt or stress.
Yeah, I think that was a good point. And rather to say, what do I need to take away to be healthy, but what can I actually add to do? And then kind of taking out this negativity. Oh, no, I have to cut sugar. I have to cut my like donuts or chocolate, or but
Complete.
what can I add that maybe the craving is disappeared?
A big issue, and I think it's not just Australia or the Anglo-Saxon world, but I think globally a big issue when it comes to conception preparation is there's a massive amount of information out there and pressure on women to be perfect and to do all of the right things. And I think that is a trap that we don't want to trip into and fall down like a hole. It's like an endless rabbit hole. And I think more than telling women what they could be doing better, I think it's important to boost women's confidence and their relationship with their intuition, because women are not going to be able to do every single change and every shift and every little health thing before they conceive, because there's so many and we live in an imperfect society. And I think what's so important before we talk more about the health stuff is to emphasize like feeling supported by your friends, your family, and your partner and yourself, and being there for yourself emotionally is very underrated. It's like, I think the most important thing you could do for your health is that confidence piece, because stress and shame and guilt are, I think, more toxic in the end than that donut. And yeah, in the end, we did get to that stage of our diets where we were cutting things out. And I don't talk about that lightly because it is not something to take on lightly. Cutting things out can be really psychologically quite draining, emotionally draining if you're not ready for it. And we only did it because we had done all the other things already and we were ready for that. We were ready to push ourselves a bit on that. But I don't think that it's necessarily the best thing for people to just go, okay, I want to prepare for a baby, so I'm going to cut out sugar or reduce caffeine or something. The woman's body is going to house the baby, birth the baby, breastfeed the baby, and then the woman's brain is going to do a complete of hormonal and chemical, like biochemical rewiring and restructuring, like burn everything down, rebuild it from nothing sort of process. So we tried to do a lot of work on my physical health, and then that continued obviously throughout the pregnancy and beyond. Whereas for the father, our idea was, okay, like epigenetics are important. But other than that, you have your sperm cells, which change every few months. Like all of the sperm is different after, what is it? How many days? Like, anyway. So the idea is we wanted him to have a very clean diet and, all the right things, sleep, exercise, hydration for a few months. Just a few months
Just a few months.
before conception.
Then afterwards, it was
It was like, yeah, you
Was it? It was not, but
well,
yeah.
but kind of, it
It's
was
the
like,
idea.
okay, now once the baby is in, you can sort of, it wasn't as much of a priority. Whereas, so for him, it was like, let's go hard for a few months. Whereas for me, it was like, let's go sustainable for a year. That was the approach, right?
Yeah. I guess the intent of our this conversation is like what we did, right? So
Right.
I'm very comfortable in saying like what we did. And I kind of took it like a challenge. And I never really had a fitness goal before. This was like, I had some, but I hadn't had one in a while. And this was actually a very good excuse. If anything, it was a perfect excuse, right? Like having a kid, you know what? I'm going to achieve this. And I guess the masculine mind sort of works that way as well. Like we have a goal, we achieve it. And it's like, okay. And if you have how do you say this? If you have a why, if you have a why, then you can enjoy anyhow, whatever. So that's right. We went pretty hard. I actually lost like 10 kilograms, like in 3 months. There's a combination of diet and a bunch of like exercises. Yeah. So I felt pretty good by the time we were like, okay, let's start to conceive sort of thing. That's the physical side.
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about the physical, because really, like, there's no complete separation between the physical and the non-physical, right? The emotional, psychological stuff and the physical stuff is more like this. And so now looking back at it, I have a bit of a different thing to say than I would have said straight after I had the baby. Now looking back on it, I would say a part of me, and I can't speak for him, but maybe it's the same, was my ego was trying to control. I didn't want to let go of my fears about my life not being in my control. So there was a little bit of, I was willing to be vulnerable to my life changing, and I can't really control what happens. I'm going to have this baby, life's going to change. I can't decide what I do and when, how much I sleep. I was willing a bit to be vulnerable, but a part of me was still trying to hold on to my power over my own life. So all this physical work and exercise, part of it was really great. We had the best of intentions. We wanted our child to get the best cells possible. But part of it also was our own unwillingness to go with the flow of life. And so it was a bit egotistical as well. So I would just say to my past self, do all of those things if you want to, nothing wrong with it. But also watch yourself and don't for a second think that like you're doing all the right things, because you're being your ego right now. As you do all this preparation, you're in your ego. You're not in the real surrendering to the universe, to God, or to spirit about this whole process. So just watch that a little bit, because the ego can be sneaky, right? You sneak in with this control desire. So, I mean, ultimately, your children are going to smash that out of you anyway. Your children are going to force you to see where you're holding on with a death grip to control. And they're going to change you into more of this. So it's going to happen either way. You can surrender now or you can surrender later. But that's what I would say to myself from that time, who was like, I'm going to do it like this. Even how I gave birth as well was sort of the same. And like, I used to think it's the best thing for a child to have this beautiful, spiritual, connected, deep experience with their mother as they're being born from one world into the next. And I still believe that. But now I don't think it's the most important thing. Like, your baby can be born in whatever story it needs to be born. And that is beautiful. Like, no matter how that happens. I did have that beautiful water birth in my own house that I wanted and I prepared for like so carefully for like 18 months. But even that, like, it would have also been fine if I birthed her in hospital.
I think you mean maybe that you had like an attachment to like an outcome.
Yeah. It's great to have goals and to work hard for those goals for our children and to give our child the best chance at life at every turn. But going into parenthood for the first time thinking that you can actually control that is really, it's not dangerous, but it's going to get knocked out of you one way or another, because you can't control everything. Your child is going to get going to have challenges. You're not going to be able to give them absolutely everything all the time. And that's actually not a shame. That's a beautiful thing because our children are strong, like how we all had challenges in our childhoods. We all had traumas. We all had wounding. It's okay that our children will not always have the most perfect experience.
Mm.
Mm.
For me, sounds like that to let go of being perfect, letting go of, like as you said, of the ego that we need to make everything perfect. Because I see a lot of moms really trying their best and really having this guilt of not doing everything perfect, and the end having this shame and not wanting to talk about it. And as you said it, it's or how I received it is to actually just let go of that. We cannot be perfect. Like uh, if someone is the first time a mom or a dad, you need to grow into that. You cannot do that. You don't know how to, I have no idea how it will be for us. I also feel like a little pressure on, I really do want to do everything perfect in the best way, and that my body is really healthy and everything, that he is really healthy, that when he gives his sperm, that it's perfect and everything, you know? So
Yeah.
I feel like when you talk now, it feels like, okay, I understand. I need to let go of that more. I need to surrender more to Heavenly Parent, and to trust in the universe that when we prepare, the baby will come to the right time. And I don't need to do everything perfectly during pregnancy, having the time, having the baby. So yeah, thank you for that, for showcasing that.
Yeah, I think that you've spoken to how a lot of women feel about this. It's, to me, what I saw when you explained that is a bit of overwhelm, a bit of frazzlement. And that's how our society makes girls and women feel when it comes to motherhood. Like these days, when I talk to young girls, like teenagers, a lot of them are saying that they don't even want to do it at all. And I think that speaks to how much pressure we put on women to kind of
Do
be
it all.
perfect. And I think it's so important. Like the way that I would say to my past self is keep the ambition and keep your passion for your child, your future child that you just want to cuddle and you want to give them the best. Like keep that love, that purity, but then notice the impurity in your passion and just remove that, which is the perfectionism. Pure passion, and keep striving every day with your health and your marriage and all the things and your finances. But where you notice that impurity, that darkness seeping in, notice it, because that could destroy. Okay, that's a bit dramatic. I'm not going to say destroy your marriage, but there's this insidious kind of false idol worship thing and this insidious darkness that can come into women that I've experienced, which is my standards is more important than how the father of my child feels, and like being willing to disrespect them and put them down for their parenting because it's not up to the standard that I think my baby needs, not because my baby really needs it, but because my ego feels comfortable with that level of perfection. Like the willingness to put someone else down so that we get to feel like we've got the perfect family, I think is quite dangerous. And this is like a female pattern, I think that's quite common. It's like if we see these gaps in the man's parenting, we can be really willing to just like speak on them immediately. And I know that sounds like a bit of a tangent from what you said. It's kind of like a new point, but I'm saying that looking back, I can see that in myself a lot. I was so hung up on my child getting the best neurological experiences. Her neural pathways should develop in this way, and I know this, so it should go like that for her brain, and like, zzz, and then, oh, he's not doing it right. I've got to like tell him. And just not seeing that the perfectionism is seeping in a little bit, and it's actually doing more damage to the family and to the child. The little amount of benefit that could come from me pointing this out to him or even to the grandparents, like that's a huge, very common experience, I think, for women, is like going crazy from seeing the way that our parents or our parents-in-law are parenting the child or our partner is parenting the child. I don't know if you guys resonate with that.
Yeah, 100%. I talked to a friend of mine maybe a month ago, and he has a young 1-year-old girl, and the mother is quite perfectionist about raising her. And he has a father, he described it to me in a way that very regularly he comes into an argument with her, like with his wife, and about how to like change the diapers or just do just do parenting, right? Just like how to
Deal with his daughter.
deal with his daughter. And for him, it's really frustrating to. mm, Okay, I think what was frustrating for him was the attitude his wife had, how she explained it, like in a way that she knows everything better and that there's no room for him to make his own experiences and, take what's best, like what he think is best for that moment, to see things more relaxed and do things in a new way. And that was quite taxing on their relationship. So what you just said was exactly what I heard a few weeks ago. And yeah, I bet it happens in every relationship. If there's a child, like it will happen. And yeah, like it would be maybe very valuable if you guys could explain when that happened to you guys, how you dealt with that.
I think you're right, Sebastian, in saying that the thing is that it is, as a man or as a woman, as father and a mother, we have all these ideas of how we want to be acting. All things that we want to be ready in that way, etc. I think that that's one of the areas that we probably learned the most from. I think that we're kind of speaking now from a place of lessons learned rather than probably what we did right, in a sense.
Learn from our failures.
Yeah, because it's much more. It is a very difficult time, especially as a first-time parent, right? And we notice all our. First of all, I mean, there's this awareness because it comes from a good place, right? There's this awareness of all these. Okay, we probably don't want to repeat what we went through as a child, and also it doesn't. The fact that there's so much information out there probably is helpful, but it doesn't help. Right? We have so much information, like compared to our parents' generation, where they're just like parenting. It's like, "Oh, just like it, and we're just going to raise it as it comes." And they didn't really know the consequences and everything. And now, almost like they say that one day of a 1-year-old is probably equivalent in the terms of like the effect that it has on the brain as 1 year when you're sort of 15 or whatever. And when you hear these sort of things, it really makes you neurotic. Yeah. And that, I think it can make you neurotic. And that's where we were coming from, I think. And we were really it was coming from a good intention. And so looking back now, I think that's one area. The way that we coped is actually just doing more research. That we thought that it was a good idea to actually having more information, doing more research. And I think this is the perfect way. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, another sort of podcast. I think this is the best way. And so we were trying to implement all these things. And at the end of the day, like it was a bit too much. So I think that we could have had more grace towards each other and towards actually ourselves.
There is a framework in psychotherapy where there's these 3 sections of your journey. One is creating safety and stability, and then processing, and then integrating. So this is like about learning new things, developing knowledge and wisdom ultimately. There is there's a suggestion here to notice oneself. Do I have enough stability and safety to be bringing on new information, new knowledge? And then can I process that? Because if you don't even have the most basic level of safety and stability in your own internal landscape, it might not be the wisest thing for you to take on new information because it could feel overwhelming and overloading. Like if you've got an autistic child, level 3 autism, 1-year-old, and you've got a 5-year-old as well, you hearing that the plastic wrapping that your vegetables coming in is like seeping microtoxins into your kids' food and you should change the way you do lunchboxes, you might find that more overwhelming and unhelpful for your family than if you didn't hear it at all. So this structure of thinking, okay, am I ready for more knowledge? Is knowledge power here? Or actually, is it going to be detrimental to my family? I think that's something only a person themselves can decide. And for us, part of it was we were like, yes, we're ready for more knowledge. Bring it on. Challenge me. I am going to work hard, hustle, and I'm going to do the best thing. And part of that may have been a little bit true because we did get great outcomes, I think, when it came to our baby's brain. And now that she's 4, not 6 months old, not 10 months old, not 12 months old, we could actually see that the things we learned were evidence-based. It was scientific fact, certain things about how a baby's brain develops, what impacts them and why. And certain choices we made were very hard. They were evidence-based and they really paid dividends. And we can see that now.
For example?
In terms of her attachment, her psychological attachment, her confidence, her language skills, speech ability, her risk assessment. So I'm saying, yes, certain things really did pay off because of our knowledge, but there was a dark side to how we approached it because I do think that we also leaned a bit too far in to that processing phase when we didn't actually have the safety and stability that would have maybe really been good for us. Bombshell here, kind of. I have autism and ADHD. I already sort of self-diagnosed this, but I was sick of people saying, oh, you have autism and ADHD. Have you been officially diagnosed? And me saying no. So I did get a diagnosis and officially I can say I have autism and ADHD. And my ADHD is in like the 99th percentile. So it means even among people who have ADHD, I have a lot of ADHD. So my mind already interacts with the world differently in that the things I'm aware of are different things sometimes than what neurotypical people are aware of. It's not that I'm smarter or dumber or I'm more aware or less aware. It's that my brain focuses on different things. And some things overwhelm me that won't overwhelm other people. And then some things I find really easy and intuitive that other people struggle to keep up with. And so I know that about my mind now, but I didn't know that about my mind back then. And I think part of me was chasing success and safety and stability in the family I was creating by trying to consume more knowledge when actually emotionally, I didn't have that safety and stability. So like really, I burnt out. I did burn out a little bit in motherhood after the baby came along because I would go into autistic meltdown and autistic shutdown, partly because of severe sleep deprivation, like basically torture, partly because my brain was going through burn it all down, build it up, restructuring of my hormonal chemistry and everything. So I would just say to people, look at that structure of safety and stability and then processing and then integration and try to figure out where you are on that. Do I need to push myself more? Or do I need to sit in quietness with myself and love myself and find safety in myself before I think about improving things? So I just think for women, it is maybe good to think about your neurological landscape before having children because autism and ADHD can affect your mothering a lot and affect what kind of support you're going to need in postpartum, especially that first month and first 3 months, because sleeplessness and stuff like that can affect us really differently. And I had severe postpartum anxiety, which looking back, if I knew about my brain more, I may have been able to get help for that. I may have been more open to help for that.
So, for example, that you could get more sleep, for example, or to get more rest that your brain, for example, would need.
Well, I was a perfectionist. So, like I didn't take any medication, anti-nausea medication, no painkillers, like not even a pill, like a Panadol. My whole pregnancy or birth, everything was natural. And then breastfeeding as well. I didn't want to take anything. So I wasn't open to the idea of anti-anxiety medication or anything, even the idea of him giving a bottle during the night. I wasn't open to it because I just want my baby. I want it to look like this. I was really, really suffering. Like I was almost hospitalized because of my mind would just not give up the standard that I wanted. And I did all of the right things. Like I never gave her anything that I felt wasn't really the natural way. But looking back now, and this is also a first-time mum thing, a lot of people naturally go through this process with the first baby and then second baby, they get a bit more relaxed. But my body was kind of shutting down. So looking back, I feel like my body was preparing for death a little bit. It was like, it wasn't just that I wasn't sleeping enough, is that I couldn't eat food, even if it was in front of me, because my digestive system just would not digest food. So even if I put it in my body, I know it's not going to digest. I haven't had enough sleep. My body was completely shutting down. And maybe there could have been something we could do, like anti-anxiety medication or something, to just get me out of that cycle a bit. But at the time, if you'd told me that, there's just no way I would have just said, no, we need to pay for more support, get more people in the house to help with this and that. But really, I don't think that would have helped, because we did have support. Like, we paid for a postpartum like doula to come and help do laundry and things like that. But really, in my heart, I wasn't willing to let go of any of the responsibility for the important things. I wanted to be with my baby every moment, 24/7.
Yeah,
It was a hard time.
it was a hard time. And actually, trying to support that was also hard to say. As a uh, as a husband, actually, it's we were like we actually mapped all our sort of pregnancy and postpartum as well. And we did all these courses of, the hypnobirthing courses, which was amazing. Like, so you sort of bonded a lot in, before the pregnancy and in the delivery as well. And, how to prepare together towards the goal, right? Which was great. But at the same time, of course, we're not one person, and we have different opinions and stuff. And it was actually seeing Kaimi go through that, and it's very tempting as as a husband to sort of to tell her, maybe you don't need to go this hard, maybe that sort of thing. And it was difficult, because in a sense, like, that she's doing it and we're doing it for the benefit of our child, which is the most important thing. At the same time, you want her to have a break, and so you're like, can we actually sacrifice a bit of that quality that we're providing so that we can, so that she can have a break, for example, but breastfeeding. She's breastfeeding all the time. Like, you can't get a break. But she, the fact that she, again, I guess attachment, right? Like, you have some sort of attachment to an outcome, and the, so just in a sense, allowing her to be in that space, but at the same time supporting and being mindful and being able to sort of support her in the ways that she needs is important, but it's very challenging. And I tried. I think I tried, but it was a very now looking back, I think, again, probably if we were able to like forgive ourselves in terms of we're not going to be able to provide a perfect care for the child. I remember seeing actually, because we're doing so many things. I remember seeing, like, for example, parents who would like sleep train kids, and which is like very common practice. But we were like, I don't think this is good. So I remember having, like, like some sort of judgment where it's like, we're doing so, there. So I remember, like, parents who would sort of like, oh, we're sleeping okay because, we trained our baby to sleep and all these things. And we're like, well, this is the important time. Like, we're investing a lot. So we're like being neurotic about it. And I think having a child is really, especially the first 18 months, you're in the trenches, right? You really are. So I think remembering that is I think important, and having that grace, really, that, in the end, like, having that, in the end, what matters is that we're doing what we can, because we all are. Yeah, I think we're all placed with a very specific circumstances, and sometimes we act like God, like we act like we have like control over everything, and we don't. And our child will grow up in a so in the circumstances that they're going to grow up in, and of course, like, we can do our best, but that is also their path, and recognizing that is, I think, also um, a good example to set also to the child as well, like being forgiving towards yourself.
Being self-reflective and repairing for ruptures. And for people listening who don't see the visual, I've been nodding along to what Kenmei's been saying in agreement. I do really agree with that. And we are not perfect parents, and our child is not having a perfect childhood. And no child will. For anyone listening who hasn't had a child yet, you can be sure that no matter what you do, it is going to have imperfections, and that is beautiful. But we do have what we do have control over is role modeling to our children. 1, we do our best. 2, we are allowed to make mistakes. And 3, we repair. We repair from ruptures. We demonstrate we are actively making effort to repair from ruptures. I think what's more damaging to a child than any rupture we could have with them, any imperfect childhood issue, is to ignore its existence or justify or excuse or not show them that we want to be better. We want to give them a better childhood. I think at the end of the day, that's the only thing that we can do and that we can have control over is, are we showing our children that we do our best and that we repair from our mistakes?
Yeah, that's beautifully said. That we allow our children to see ourselves as being not perfect, but repair that, like that it's allowed to make mistakes. Because I feel like that's done in school, or when I remember as a child or a teenager, that I was terrified of doing mistakes and then repair them and more wanting to run away. But when parents showcasing on this is okay to make mistakes, but then also taking responsibility and then repair that, that it creates safety for that. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, again, it's like, as I said, it is there is a lot more that we can learn actually looking back and from our mistakes. I think that's more what it is. And because again, we can be, especially probably as blessed couples, we have like such high standards and such high standards of what to achieve, what to strive for, what to achieve, right? It's a second blessing, having a family and you wait for it all your life. And so once things are not in accordance with what you imagine it would be, it's very easy for us, like from our cultural background, to be very defensive and quite almost insecure, right? On that, to basically defend our own image of what's important. And that really kind of gets to, and sometimes we forget what's really important. And you sort of are on each other's throats to try to defend what was important in your mind. For example, I have a sort of like an idea of like how I should be treated as a husband inside the household. Sometimes, especially in those times of trenches, of having like you can't get that all the time, obviously, or maybe you won't get that for like a very long period of time. And you make that mean something about yourself, then you cannot stand it. And so you basically, it's, if anything that you can do to prepare for a child, and I'm not even sure you can do that really unless you're in the trenches, like, because you don't realize things unless you're really pushed to the limit. And there's nothing that's going to push you, or very little thing that's going to push you emotionally as having a child together, probably. And so if you can prepare for that, I would really recommend working on feeling like safe with yourself, and feeling safe like with your inner child. Work on your healings. Like, look at, it's okay to get triggered as long as you recognize it, and look into your triggers. Why do you feel so triggered? Why do you not like about the way that you're treated by your partner, etc.? And the more you work on these, the more you're going to be able to, with grace, communicate to your partner, and not like be that blunt and this is my boundaries and all these things in times that is not appropriate, which is like the sort of thing that I did actually, to be honest, that I did actually in the times that were most difficult, because it was difficult for both of us, right? For everyone. And when it's difficult, well, it's also easy to get triggered and be really firm. Like, we're both very stubborn and firm, I think, around these times. So yeah, it's great to have all these standards and but at the same time, I think ironically enough, second gens, we're not really forgiving towards ourselves.
Mhm.
We're not really forgiving because we think we strive for perfection. We're so perfect. Really, yeah. The Where I am right now and the journey that it took me, it's really seek for that connection with God. I think it's really really be, all these standards, all these, the law, the moral codes, and all these sort of things. It really makes us realize how imperfect we are. And in the face of that, can we forgive ourselves? Can we ask for forgiveness to our partner? And can we ask for forgiveness to God, actually? And from that place of grace, we can actually build something and accept each other in the imperfection. And, our journey it was at times extremely hard. And, I do not recommend that to anyone, to be honest, but anyone. But, I think from that place, sometimes you need that to realize that you are not in control of your life. And sometimes, yeah, you need that. And from, yeah, to surrender, basically, right? And from that place, it makes you appreciate so much more on what you have, on your child that you have, like, and you realize all these imperfection, and you don't want to realize, because that means that because you make it mean that you're such a bad parent if you are imperfect. But from a place of, if you can accept all this imperfection, all these things that you were not good at, I feel like I became such a better parent because of that. I think I became much more flexible.
Yeah.
I have so much more grace towards my daughter because I found that within myself.
Well, thank you for your honesty. And I think many listeners can get a lot of value from that, looking into themselves and trying to figure out, what will I be challenged with when we have children? What is something that I have to work on right now before things happen that cannot be undone, before things really get worse? And you two just described it really well, that you can't prepare for everything, and that there's a certain mindset that is almost, it sounds like it's the only thing that can actually help you in such a situation, a mindset of forgiving yourself and a mindset of giving grace to the partner, taking God on the journey with you. And that seems to be the best way to prepare for struggles that will inevitably come.
Yeah, thank you for your reflection. If I can say what I think is the most important thing and lesson that I've learned and carried with me throughout this whole journey, that I think is true no matter what. Okay, it's multiple things. One is, raising our children is a process of us being reflected back what it is in ourselves that we need to look at. I mean, I think it's the same with your intimate partnership. And anything of life, actually, is that we're moving through life, and life is showing us the ways that we're not free. When we are getting challenged, stretched, triggered, it's like a mirror that's reflecting back to us the ways that we're stuck and the ways that we're not free. So our children are always going to do that for us, same as in a partnership. And when you're holding on to resistance and not wanting to change, that's really the danger. That's the toxicity, because life is supposed to be dynamic and flowing. For me, I had to let go of the perfect church girl image and reputation and anything I got out of that. People look at us as this couple that, we got together in this way and we've done things this way. And, we were like both virgins where we met, and the church cares about that so much. And then we had this life and this perfect family that we prepared for, and this perfect little child. And like, I had a fear around losing that, around losing my reputation and not being that perfect church girl anymore and stuff. And other people, it's not going to be the same. Other people's triggers are going to be completely different. People who are not neurotic, who are not type A, who are not rigid and fixed the way that we are not going to relate with these issues. Yeah. So I was just saying that other people's journeys won't have this type of resistance. And so their assignment from God, from Heavenly Parent, from the universe won't be the same as our assignment to overcome. And that's something that I needed to let go of. But for other people who are on the opposite side of the spectrum from me, who are not rigid, not fixed, maybe their obstacles more lie in they don't have enough passion, they don't have enough fire, they don't have enough gumption, they don't have enough courage, they don't lean enough. Maybe for them, the journey, the assignment could be the opposite, could be more like, how can you lean in more to your marriage, devote yourself more, live in devotion in this way to your partner, not just yourself. Like for us, we were in a codependent relationship where we were willing to self-abandon our inner child to keep the relationship together and enmeshed. And we had to go through a process of detaching and learning how to prioritize our own inner child and our healing, which was in the most service to our family.
Yeah, man. I think once you have a child, you definitely will have less time. And I really recommend facing as many of your demons as possible right now. Yeah. Like already being with someone, like with a partner, like that triggers you. That's amazing, because you can actually know your demons, and yeah, just face that right now. Take ownership. Like of your life right now. Like there's always things that you can do. And this really sometimes having children is interesting, because I don't think without having a child, I don't think I would have faced my demons as well. Because having a child puts you in a position of responsibility like never before. You still have a child. So you still need to sort of have a good relationship. So it was trial by fire. And it was one way I can see now, and the journey is still ahead. But it was one way that God had put me, I think, for us to make me into a better version of myself. I can say that I am much more stable, and I'm a better father. As I said before, you're going to be a better person, a better partner, and a better father. So I think that's what I have to say. I know I see, but I think I have let go of the expectation of how things should go, and I've accepted that God, sometimes it's not everything is in your control, and sometimes God writes straight. No, God always actually writes straight with crooked lines. God always writes straight with crooked lines, and other people's choices are not in your control. And still you need to do what you believe is best, and that is a true test of character.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So I agree with Kenmei's reflection that at the end of the day, it's like a self-development course. Having a child is like being in school, like being in the school of love and the school of life, where you get these assignments every day. And the assignments are all really trying to teach you the ways that you are stuck, and the ways that you're not free, the ways that you're rigid, the ways that you're trying to play God in your own life in a way that's not in alignment, not co-creating, but ego. And we don't have to wait for a baby to come before we face those assignments, because life has been nudging us and pointing those things out for a long time. The secret is every time we get triggered, every single time we get triggered in life before we become parents, that's the assignments knocking, going, these are the things we want you to shift in yourself. And when we don't, they come knocking in bigger and bigger ways. It's the same pattern with categories like health. Before the cancer diagnosis comes or the mental breakdown comes, there are signs that you're not being responsible, that you're not showing up for your shifts and adjustments that are required. And I'm not saying that it was just Kenmei that wasn't showing up in his changes required before our child was born and before we became parents. Obviously, it's a dyad. It's impossible to draw a line of whose fault was it, because it's like fundamentally it's a dyad. It's a two people relationship. So both of us had areas in our life that were knocking that we did not show up for the assignments. I just think at the end of the day, like parenthood is going to be about that. If there's nothing else that people take away from this podcast, it's that point that at the end of the day, you cannot escape parenthood not doing the inner work, because it is all about the inner work. Every single moment, even if making your kid a lunchbox, if that's triggering for you, that's the work. That's the point. The point is that there's something there for you to explore. Children do not need everything pretty and perfect on the outside, because their childhood isn't going to be about that. Their childhood is going to be based on the imprint that they received from the internal landscape more than anything. What they're going to be left with is the impression of, was my mother emotionally available for me? Did my father protect me? These are not external things like how much money you had and what the lunchbox looked like and this and that. This is the real work. I know that sometimes the way we communicated today was a little bit clunky because we haven't really talked about this stuff in a very long time. But I hope that something about our heart came across today. And yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for your honesty and vulnerable sharing on your experience before and your journey right now. And what I really take away from that is to let go of control. And I can relate with a lot of things that you, Kyomi, shared, and this overthinking and wanting to be really perfecting so many things um yeah, just letting go. It's for me this takeaway of letting go, giving grace to myself, to Basti, to surrender myself to God, to the process that will come ahead, and that I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to show up perfect for other people. I need just to be myself, to learn what are my triggers. I feel like that in this way we have done a lot of already, like even in our matching process, he being in therapy. I've been also then taking coaching and working with my inner child to understand this kind of thing. So I'm grateful that we have done that already. And there's definitely more than that
Yeah.
because I see definitely there are more triggers.
More triggers, more to work on.
But seeing it as a gift, and rather than something, oh God, I have to do that definitely before having children, and yeah, to enjoy the process rather than see the difficulties or challenges, and appreciating just the time together we have now without children, to enjoy the time to creating memories before.
And then more intense memories with children.
There's so much more that we could say. Maybe it's not right time today. Like today, we actually kind of more themed parenthood around, I think, the blind spots of our society and the ways that people really are not preparing for parenthood and understanding the internal landscape. Today's podcast was about getting people outside of thinking about what's the best, because we want people to go first and foremost with confidence, self-worth, love for themselves, grace for themselves and their partner, leaning into the inner work. That's why we didn't want to focus on what's really better, this or that. But it is true that some things are better and some things are just worse. That's the fact. If anyone does really want to learn about that stuff, you can always reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook, or, in the future, I think I'll have like a resource list just posted so that people can do their own research from there.
Great. Okay. You guys, Kyomi and Kenmei, thank you so much for being here on the podcast today.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for putting up with us and for having us.
Definitely, it was blessed. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.